All rise. All rise. Order, Madam Speaker.
There will be an opportunity for silent prayer and meditation. You may be seated. I thought today would be my rare opportunity to appoint a premier. You know, that does not come every time in the life of a speaker when they appoint a premier for the day. I was just about to do that today. Honorable members, let me take the opportunity to acknowledge the premier, the MECs, all honorable members that is in the house, those that have joined us in the gallery, those that are joining us on the social media. You are most welcome to this house sitting. It's always an exciting time when we can have the opportunity to grill the premier of the province. So I think I'm glad he took that opportunity. It's also an opportunity for him to use it to educate people on a lot of the issues and to advocate for progress in the province. But honorable members, we have quite a number of notices of motions. We have member statements before we actually get to the 10 questions that is with us. So it's not just an in and out, unfortunately, Honorable Chief Whip. Members will please have to be patient with us. Winter is here with us, and also not forgetting that we are still in the month of May. So to all workers, let's also acknowledge your contribution to the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, those that are serving us at each and every house sitting, those behind the scenes that are always ensuring that the work continues. We acknowledge you when we acknowledge all honorable members, because in essence you are workers of the people. You work for them and you lift up their issues, you fight on their behalf. So it's not only those in red that are fighters, you are also on behalf. May I also use this opportunity to acknowledge that the Honorable Dr. Duba that we have, I don't see him today, but in his absence, let's acknowledge him that he has attained his doctorate. And also Honorable Konza has a master's now. Let's congratulate them. I think Honorable Dr. Bese and Honorable Dr. Knutze, you are the trailblazers. You've set it for the others. I see others are all following suit. Well done to the honorable members. This basically shows that our bursary policy is working. Honorable Deputy Chief Whip, we are waiting for yours. And all other members, Honorable MEC Ngata, I hear you are also in the ranks there. I'm not sure, Honorable Premier. You've got elections upon elections. Yes, no, but good luck. And to those that are still, continuing with their studies, please do not stop. It does not take any effort making that decision. I know it takes a lot of effort when you actually have to do the work in that sense. But honorable members, you are most welcome to this house sitting. My apologies, I've got a little bit of a scratchy voice, but let's continue. Is my device now working? Okay, yes. Up we have notices of motion, so let us start with Honorable Vimbayo. Honorable Vimbayo. Oh. Please put on your mic.
Honorable Premier, honorable members, and our technical support and and members of the communities watching us in social media platforms. Honorable Speaker, I move without notice in terms of Rule 130 that the House notes that the month of May marks Africa Month, a month that is dedicated to celebrating the rich cultural heritage, diverse traditions, and collective achievements of the African continent and its people. Further notes that May also marks the commemoration of the founding of the Organization of African Unit, OAU, on the 25th of May 1963. This organization evolved into the African Union we know today. Recognizes that South Africa's liberation struggle was fundamentally buttressed by the solidarity and support we received from our fellow African nations who provided us with refugee and diplomatic support during the darkest years of apartheid. Acknowledges Africa's significant contribution to shaping civilization through its ancient knowledge systems, technological innovations, artistic expressions, and rich cultural diversity that continues to enrich humanity. Commemorates the visionary leaders who championed Pan-Africanism and African unity, including Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere, Robert Sobukwe, Patrice Lumumba, and Nelson Mandela, whose collective wisdom established the foundation for intercontinental cooperation and integration. Reflects on South Africa's journey from isolation during apartheid to becoming an integral member of the African family of nations that is committed to the ideals of an African renaissance, self-determination, and the advancement of the continent's development agenda. Celebrates the progress made towards continental integration through initiatives such as African Continental Free Trade Area, which represents significant milestone in fostering intra-African trade, economic development, and shared prosperity. Expresses deep concern about ongoing challenges facing the continent, which includes conflicts, economic disparities, climate change, and corruption. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I move that the House A, reaffirms commitment to the principles of Pan-Africanism, African solidarity, and the advancement of Agenda 2063 as the development blueprint for transforming Africa into a global powerhouse. B, recommends the implementation of educational programs that will illuminate Africa's contribution to global development, fostering a spirit of pride and appreciation for Africa among the young people of the Eastern Cape. C, calls for increased parliamentary engagement with counterparts across the continent to enable sharing of democratic best practices that will continue to promote a better Africa and a better world. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I put the motion without notice. Thank you. Okay. Move on to Honorable Dr. Bese.
Greetings to you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to Premier, Deputy Speaker in absentia, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, honorable members, our guests in the gallery. Honorable Speaker, I move without notice in terms of Rule 130 that the House notes that on the 18th May 1912, Isitwalandwe, Walter Uliet Max Sisulu, was born in Mhlaba in the Eastern Cape. Remembers that Walter Sisulu was a towering figure in the liberation struggle, a selfless servant of the people who rose from humble beginnings as a miner, bakery assistant, domestic helper, and a factory hand to become a formidable trade unionist and a freedom fighter. Acknowledges that he joined the African National Congress in 1940 and was one of the founders of the ANC Youth League in 1944, where he served as its first position of a treasurer. further recalls his critical role as Secretary General of the ANC from 1949 to 1954, during which time he was instrumental in leading the Defiance Campaign and in the adoption of the historic Freedom Charter in 1955. Recognizes his founding role in Umkhonto weSizwe in 1961 and his conviction in the referendum trial in 1964, which resulted in a life sentence, of which he served 25 years in Robben Island, alongside other leaders, including Nelson Mandela and Govan Mbeki, acknowledges his contribution after the unbanning of the ANC in 1990, when he chaired the interim leadership corps tasked with rebuilding the organization and was subsequently elected deputy president of the ANC at the 1991 Durban conference, serving until his retirement in 1994. Commends the ANC for bestowing on him the highest honor of his Twalandwe in 1992 in recognition of his exceptional service and sacrifice for the liberation of South Africa. Notes with reverence the words of Indian anti-apartheid activist E.S. Reddy, who described Sisulu as the organizational genius of the ANC and the moving spirit behind all the great campaigns in the 1950s, as well as the transformation of the ANC in 1960 to 1961 for underground work and armed struggle. That the House therefore resolves to pay tribute to Walter Sisulu, who passed away in 2003, for his principled leadership, humility, discipline, and unwavering commitment to the vision of a democratic and non-racial and non-sexist South Africa, and calls upon all South Africans, especially the youth, to draw inspiration from his legacy and emulate his values of selflessness, unity, and dedication to justice and equality. Honourable Speaker, I so move.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm waiting for the honourable member to sit down. Thank you, honourable member. Honourable members, I put in notice of motion. Just a change of order. Can we then have Honourable Mlokoti up next? I'm trying to, yes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise in terms of Rule 130 of the Standing Rules of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, that as the economic freedom fighters, we express our outrage and alarm following the abduction of 2 newborn babies from Doranginza Hospital in Gqeberha on Tuesday, the 20th of May, 2025. This shameful and terrifying incident where premature infants only 4 and 2 days old were stolen from a state hospital by women posing as visitors represents not only a criminal act but a chilling indictment of the state of public health care and hospital
Let's start, Honorable Lokoti. You may proceed. Apologies, honorable members. Seemingly there was a trip somewhere. There are also people working on the grounds, laying some cables. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Speaker. I rise in terms of Rule 130 of the Standing Rules of the Eastern Cape Legislature, that as the economic freedom fighters, we express our outrage and alarm following the abduction of 2 newborn babies from Doranginza Hospital in Gqeberha on Tuesday, 20 May 2025. This shameful and terrifying incident where premature infants, only 4 and 2 days old, were stolen from a state hospital by women posing as visitors represents not only a criminal act but a chilling indictment of the state of public health care and hospital security in our province. This breach happened under the watch of on-duty staff, stationed security guards, and supposedly active surveillance systems. That such an act could unfold inside a government facility exposes the complete collapse of internal control systems and underscores the EFF's long-standing warning that our healthcare system, our healthcare institutions are in crisis. While we commend the swift action of the SAPS, particularly the vigilant officer whose intervention ensured the safe recovery of the babies, we cannot ignore the trauma inflicted on the mothers nor the glaring negligence of the hospital management. We therefore move that this House, number 1, condemns in the strongest terms the adoption of the 2 newborns. That number 2 calls for the immediate investigation on the matters that have led to the abduction of the infants and the consequences thereof. Number 3, we demand an urgent, independent, and public inquiry into hospital security protocols across all provincial health facilities with particular attention to the maternity and neonatal wards. Number 4, we call on the Department of Health to apologize publicly to the affected mothers and to provide comprehensive psychological support and counseling. And that we demand the installation of biometric access control, functional surveillance system, and professionally trained security officers in all high-risk areas of our hospitals. And lastly, this incident is not an isolated incident, but an offshoot part of a pattern of a systematic decay. It is time to confront this rot with decisive action before more lives are endangered. I so move.
Thank you, honorable member. Honorable members, I put the notice without, the motion without notice for adoption. Thank you. Honorable Fishlani is up next.
Honorable Speaker, I move without notice in terms of Rule 128, subsection 1, and Rule 129, that this House conveys sincere condolences to the families, friends, and colleagues of the Dunsula family, which is a husband and wife, who met their untimely death on Wednesday, on the 21st of May, 2025. Knows that the couple who were shot and killed were health workers who were stationed at St. Elizabeth Hospital in Lusikisiki. Further knows that the couple was working at St. Elizabeth Hospital as a professional nurse and another as a manager responsible for human resource. Understand that it is unfortunate that the circumstances surrounding the death is still unknown. Commend the all joint efforts of the various state institutions that were involved in ensuring that adequate support was given to all the healthcare staff personnel as well as the affected families, family members during the time of distress. Wishes and praise for the strength to prevail over the families of the deceased. Urges the law enforcement agencies to conduct a comprehensive and thorough investigation in order to ascertain the cause of the heinous act and put every effort towards ensuring that the perpetrators are brought to book and face the full might of the law. African National Congress extends its deepest condolences to the Dunsula and Jafta families colleagues, friends, and all those that are touched by the loss. I so move, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I put the motion without notice for adoption. Move on to Honourable Anil Kumar.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the House at large. Let me greet you in the name of African National Congress. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move with notice Rule 131 of the Standing Rules of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature. This House notes that the results of internal migration show that two provinces continue to dominate in the internal migration in South Africa. During the intersectional period, the Eastern Cape and the Limpopo provinces had the largest negative net migration rates. A net negative migration of 1.5 million occurred in 2022, when 2 million people left the province and only 43,883 people moved into Eastern Cape, according to the census of South Africa 2022. The Eastern Cape saw the most net negative migration because more people left the province than they came in. A decreasing local population because of negative net migration means a smaller customer base for nearby companies. It ultimately results in the poorer output, slower economic development, and less demand for products and services. Labor shortages and shrinking pool of skilled individuals in some critical fields can impede on the economic progress of the province. The diverse skills, knowledge, and entrepreneurial talent that we lost through migration adversely affect the province at large. Negative net migration can hinder economic development and competitiveness by reducing innovative ideas and creative thinking. A dwindling population because of negative net migration can lead to physical challenges, such as shrinking tax base, decreased tax revenues, and increased burden of state resources. Honorable Speaker, additionally, demographic characteristics indicated that the most probable age group to move would be women and men aged between 15 and 24. People who are economically active because they are young are moving to neighboring provinces or urban areas, which has a detrimental impact on the Eastern Cape province rural areas. The Eastern Cape economy and growth might benefit from the contributions of these individuals if they are not leaving. Poor service delivery aggregate the areas of infrastructure, water, health, and education, even if the weak economy is the primary driver of the migration to the provinces. Honorable Speaker, we again note migration and several factors of family life in the province have been negatively impacted by historical patterns of the economic activity. The province's current socio-economic and demographic makeup is mostly the results of complicated demographic responses to the issues of destitution, particularly among underprivileged demographic groups. Therefore, we further note there is a little research available on the retention of scarce skills and the turnover rate in the South African public sector. Most of the small businesses and entrepreneurs are struggling to survive in the current economic climate. Therefore, to resolve, OTP as the coordinating department must draw specific plans based on the Eastern Cape Socio-Economic Consultative Council's recent report, which is available information to make Eastern Cape a more attractive place than currently. The provincial government needs to come up with the plans to bring a new residence and business form, make healthcare and education better. They will help to fix the problems that can cause people to leave, like not having enough jobs, but bad quality of life and other things to be attended. The Department of Social Development may initiate programs to better support families by encouraging cooperation across generations through media campaigns and intergenerational investment schemes. OTP, in collaboration with the exec, must undertake comprehensive research on the retention of scarce skills and the turnover rate in South African employment sector. To equip municipalities to better handle migration challenges, COCTA has to create a targeted plan. Finally, the provincial government has to execute the township and rural entrepreneurship initiative, which was highlighted by President Ramaphosa in 2025 SONA as soon as possible. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We note the notice of motion. It will then be debated at a later stage in accordance with Rule 133, subsection 1. We now move to Honorable Chocho.
Enkosi, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise on behalf of the EFF to move a notice of motion in terms of Rule 131 of the Standing Rules of the Eastern Cape Legislature that this House notes the deep concern expressed over the appalling condition under which traditional leaders, including kings, are forced to live in this province. What is most alarming is the current state of Enkululekweni, the royal palace of King of Abatembu, out of respect for His Majesty and for security reasons. We will not detail the full extent of the conditions. Suffice to say, they are undignified, insecure, and unbefitting of a head of state. It should have rung an alarm bell for this government when the Wusu residence manager arrested for murder, attempted murder, and unlawful possession of firearm and ammunition claimed in a public domain that the first place he went to after committing the crime was Enkululekweni, where the king and his family reside. This is not disturbing. It is a national embarrassment and exposes the complete lack of security and protection around our traditional institutions. The king is not a ceremonial figure. He is a tribal head of state. Should anything happen to His Majesty, the consequences will be catastrophic, plunging the national into anarchy, uncertainty, and irreparable loss. And what is worse is that even after such revelations become public, this government has taken no action, not even a statement of consent, no visible improvement in security, no commitment to protecting the king, his family, or the institution. Therefore, this House resolved, number A, the demand that the Department of COGTA urgently account for the support and resourcing provided to King in the Eastern Cape, including safety, security, and infrastructure. Number B, to request a comparative report on the treatment and support of King across province to identify and rectify inequalities. Number C, to call for an immediate oversight visit to royal palaces in the province, starting with Enkululekweni, to assess living and security conditions. Number D, to demand urgent upgrade to infrastructure and the implementation of a proper dignified security plan for all recognized king and royal households. Number E, and to call for respect to our king, not only in words, but through action that affirms their role and to protect their lives and legacy. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We note the notice of motion. It will be debated at a later stage in accordance with Rule 133, subsection 1. We now move to Honourable Madikizela.
Honorable Speaker, I rise on behalf of economic freedom fighters to move a notice of motion in terms of Rule 131 of the standing rules of the Eastern Cape Provincial. Sorry, Speaker. I rise on behalf of economic freedom fighters to move a notice of motion in terms of Rule 131 of the standing rules of the Eastern Cape Provincial Legislature, that this House, number 1, condemns the unlawful and arrogant interference by the Premier Oscar Mabuyane in the internal affairs of Amampondo Kingdom. 2, notes that on the 12th April 2025, Premier Mabuyane appointed Prince Dumelani Daluxolo Sicao as acting king of Amampondo, despite there being no dispute from the royal family about who should rightfully ascend the throne. Number 3 notes that the late King Zanozuko Kelovuyo Sicao was recognized by both Tlapo Commission and former President Jacob Zuma, with President Cyril Ramaphosa affirming his kingship in 2018. Number 4 notes that the king left behind a son who by Amampondo customs and broader African tradition is a rightful heir. 5 notes that the royal family has not issued any dispute. Instead, it has made it clear that the rightful heir is known, of age, and fit to lead. The interference of the premier is not only unlawful, but a direct assault on customary law and traditional authority. Number 6, that this his role per court ruling dated November 2023 was to conduct an investigation and produce a report, not to install a king. Even that report must be subjected to public scrutiny to ensure that it aligns with traditional leadership and governance framework act and Amampondo customs. Number 7 notes that the premier, who has dismally failed to provide leadership in the province plagued by poverty, crime, corruption, and collapsing services, has now taken it upon himself to destabilize Amampondo nation with reckless decisions. The premier has started imagining powers he doesn't have. He has no business in appointing acting kings. Therefore, this House resolved to condemn the premier unlawful and disruptive interference in the Amampondo succession process, to call for the immediate withdrawal of the king's appointment, to argue full recognition of the rightful heir as determined by the royal family and in line with Amampondo custom and national legislation, to demand the premier to stay within his legal mandate and respect the autonomy of traditional leadership structures. The Amampondo people must be left to resolve their royal matters in peace, guided by their customs and recognized legal processes, not the whims of the overreaching premier who is dismally failing to the task he availed himself for, which is to lead the province of the Eastern Cape. I so move, Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. Honorable member, we note the notice of motion, and it will then be debated at a later stage in accordance with Rule 133, subsection 1. We will now move to Honorable Mhlaba.
Afternoon, Honourable Speaker. I hereby move in terms of Rule 131 of the Standing Rules of this House, noting that the SAPS recently recovered 231 cattle, 81 sheep and 78 goats in a rural safety operation in spanning the Alfred Nzo, Joe Mhlaba and OR Tambo districts with the total estimated value of exceeding 3 million rand. That this operation represents one of the most significant stock theft recoveries in the Eastern Cape to date. That stock theft remains one of the most devastating crimes affecting rural communities and farmers, threatening food security, jobs creation and rural economy. That the success of this recovery operation underscores the importance of coordinating well-resourced rural safety interventions. 5, that many rural police stations remain undercapacitated with limited vehicles, staff, and access to modern surveillance and livestock tracking technologies. that the Department of Agriculture has an existing rural safety strategy but lacks dedicated mechanisms with SAPS on stock theft prevention and response. Honourable Speaker, I therefore resolve that the Honourable MEC for Agriculture must urgently engage with the Provincial Commissioner of Police to establish a formal partnership framework for stock theft prevention, response and recovery across the Eastern Cape. That this partnership must include the allocation of agricultural funding for livestock tagging and tracking support, development of a shared intelligence database and coordination of rural patrols with affecting farming communities. 3, that the MEC must table within 60 days a comprehensive rural safety support strategy detailing the budget allocations for surveillance and monitoring technology to be used in high-risk stock theft areas, and the establishment of a rural community liaison forums that include SAPS, agriculture, and organized agricultural bodies. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We note the notice of motion. It will be debated at a later stage in accordance with Rule 133, subsection 1. We now move on to Honourable Mogatosi. Next up.
Honorable Speaker, good afternoon. I rise on behalf of Vuyo Nyambayo, Nombulelo Kasibe, and Mlamli Ntleko of the historic Block 40 and Red Location in terms of Rule 131 of the standing rules of this House, that this House, noting that the Red Location Museum has remained closed since October 2013 due to ongoing protests by residents over housing development issues, specifically the defective Phase 2 houses which began to show structural problems shortly after occupation. 2, that despite repeated attempts by various stakeholders to resolve the issues and reopen the museum, residents' concerns have persisted and remain unresolved. 3, that in the late 2024, a rectification program was approved for qualifying beneficiaries and funding was allocated for the construction of 54 new houses in the area, yet only 23 have been completed to date. 4, that there is widespread suspicion amongst residents that funds intended for new housing have been diverted to the rectification of existing houses, with no clear communication provided to the community regarding these financial decisions. 5, that the recent handover of houses did not follow the beneficiary list agreed upon by residents, raising suspicious concerns about transparency and fairness of allocation processes. Therefore, resolves that this House calls for an urgent independent investigation into 1, the allocation and expenditure of funds earmarked for the construction of 54 new housing units in Red Location area. 2, the processes and criteria used in rectification program, including whether funds were diverted for the new buildings. 3, the integrity and administration of the beneficiary selection process for housing allocation. 4, that the relevant authorities report back to this House within 60 days on the findings of this investigation and outline the steps to restore transparency, accountability, trust in the housing delivery process for the residents of Block 40 and Red Location community. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We note your notice of motion. It will be debated in accordance with Rule 133, subsection 1. The last notice of motion is from Honourable Kruger.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I hereby move with notice in terms of Rule 131 of the Standing Rules of the Eastern Cape Legislature, noting 1, that all municipalities across the Eastern Cape receive an annual allocation from the Municipal Infrastructure Grant via National Treasury, intended to support the development and maintenance of critical infrastructure. 2, a portion of this allocation is specifically ring-fenced for the maintenance and development of sports facilities. 3, there is a growing concern that some municipalities are misappropriating or diverting these ring-fenced funds to cover unrelated service delivery shortcomings in contravention of the grant's intended purpose. 4, this practice has contributed directly to the deterioration, vandalism, and eventual closure of numerous community sports facilities, such as the Gompo Sports Facility in East London. thereby denying communities and particularly young people access to safe recreational spaces and opportunities for sporting development. Therefore, the House resolves that 1, the MEC for Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs must urgently investigate and take corrective action where ring-fenced MIG funding for sports facilities has been diverted and ensure compliance with grant conditions across all municipalities. 2, the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs, in partnership with the Department of Sports, Recreation, Arts and Culture, must enforce strict oversight and compel municipalities to ring-fence and utilize the allocated funds exclusively for the upkeep and development of sports facilities. 3, detailed reports on the allocation, usage and compliance with ring-fencing requirements must be submitted quarterly to both the Standing Committee on Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs and the Standing Committee on Sport, Recreation, Arts and Culture, with specific reference to rehabilitation plans for neglected facilities. I so move.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We note your motion. It will be debated at a later stage in terms of Rule 133, subsection 1. Honourable Members, that concludes the portion that deals with notices of motions. We will now move on to member statements. I have received 3 member statements from Honourable Makashela as Chief Whip, from Honourable Vena, as well as from Honourable Kasim. We'll start with Honourable Makashela. Honourable Chief Whip, you have 3 minutes.
Thanks, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to you, the Premier, the Executive, and all the members of this august House, the support staff. Honorable Speaker, I rise today with a heavy heart to address the House on the tragic mass shooting that claimed 3 lives in Chapile village, Mhlaba. This senseless and barbaric act of violence has left a community shattered, families devastated, and has once again exposed the persistent scourge of violent crime that continues to plague our communities. The brutal nature of this attack, where 3 community members were gunned down in cold blood by unknown assailants, demands our collective outrage and immediate action from the powers that be. Honorable Speaker, this incident and other incidents of senseless violence reflect a broader pattern of violence that requires comprehensive intervention that can be realized through strong partnerships between the relevant stakeholders, including the members of the affected communities. While we extend our deepest condolences to the bereaved families, we recognize that sympathy alone is insufficient. The people of Mhlaba and similar communities across our province deserve tangible solutions to ensure their safety and security. Therefore, I call upon the MEC and the Provincial Commissioner to urgently review and strengthen security measures in our communities. Among others, this should include increased visible policing and the implementation of local safety plans in identified hotspots in the province. This institution must continue to support initiatives addressing the root causes of violence, including unemployment, substance abuse, and the proliferation of illegal firearms that continue to devastate our communities. Honorable members, we cannot allow violence and lawlessness to become normalized in any part of our province. Each life lost represents a failure of our collective responsibility to protect citizens. Let us honor the memory of those who perished through acts of violence by ensuring that justice is served and by working tirelessly to build safer communities where such tragedies become a thing of the past. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Makashela. Honourable Vena.
No, thank you very much, Speaker. My name is Zilindile Vena, a deployee of Economic Freedom Fighters in the House. I rise in terms of Rule 135A of the Standing Rules of the House, We rise today not merely as representative of the province, but as a voice of the people whose dignity was dragged through the mud in front of the whole world. The recent joint meeting between President Ramaphosa and US President Donald Trump was nothing short but the betrayal, a betrayal of the landless and the oppressed, the black people, the black majority whose blood waters the freedom we are supposed to enjoy. What was framed as a diplomatic engagement turned into an embarrassing performance where South Africa's president allowed himself to be lectured by a man who has lied repeatedly about a so-called white genocide in South Africa, a narrative pushed by race baiters like AfriForum, Elon Musk, and Trump himself. Yet, not a single member of South Africa's delegation stood up and defended our judiciary, our constitution, and our right to reclaim stolen land. Not a single member stood in defense of our sovereignty and of our struggle culture in pursuit of restoring the dignity of black people. Instead, they sat there to be undressed by Trump and condescendingly praised by Johan Rupert. This is not an international matter beyond the jurisdiction of this House. When the Premier boasts in this House about foreign investors and international partnership, we don't say this is not our business. So when our dignity and sovereignty are abandoned to the white capitalist on the global stage, it becomes every legislature's urgent business. Honorable Speaker, we put it to you that the Eastern Cape was among the hardest hit by Trump's AGOA reversals and trade tariffs. Our automotive exports have collapsed and our farmers are in crisis and thousands of jobs are online. This deliberate economic strangulation of our province, which is felt in Kariega and in Zwelitsha and all corners of the country, should be reason enough for this legislature to take a position on South Africa's relations with the US. The House must resolve on mandating our representatives in Parliament to defend the dignity, the land, and economic sovereignty of our people. It must be noted that while the ruling elite bowed to the imperialist interest of whiteness, while the president was apologizing for the righteous struggle song of our people and our claim for our land, one voice has consistently stood firm, and is that of the Commander-in-Chief and President of the EFF, Julius Silomale. He is now characterized among the thorns in the side of white supremacy. We say, keep pressing, Musha. You are not alone. We are not.
Honorable Member, your 3 minutes is up. Please, thank you so much. You may sit down. You only have 3 minutes to make a member statement. Thank you. Honorable Kasim.
Honorable Speaker, on the 7th of May, the Portfolio Committee on Police in Parliament convened to consider the DA's petition for urgent and priority intervention with respect to gang violence in the northern areas of Nelson Mandela Bay. And I was honored, Honorable Speaker, to present the lived realities of our residents directly to this committee, alongside supporting submissions that laid bare the scale and urgency of the crisis. Yesterday, that committee formally adopted its report, which means that its recommendations contained will imminently be tabled in the National Assembly for adoption, and the Minister of Police will thus be obligated to act. This is a milestone in our fight to stem the tide on the scourge plaguing my community. Honorable Speaker, on the 29th of April, my office, together with municipal councillors of the northern areas, convened a whole-of-society approach strategic planning session aimed at facilitating a united front against crime and gangsterism in the northern areas. Those present included SAPS, correctional services, CPFs, neighborhood watch patrollers, religious leaders, school principals, and civil society. One of the questions rightly asked during the engagement is whatever happened to the promises made by MEC Mhlaba to the Crime and Safety Summit hosted in West End on the 15th of March last year. It was this legislature, let me remind you, that adopted the motion that I tabled, which compelled MEC Mhlaba to host that summit. And to his credit, after initially refusing to comply, MEC Mhlaba finally hosted the summit and made a host of promises, which includes, amongst others, publishing the resolutions of the summit and employing 50 community safety brigade patrollers from the northern areas. Over 14 months have passed and the resolutions have still not been published, which has led my community to conclude that the summit was only a talk shop. I've repeatedly asked the MEC, when will the 50 patrollers that he promised be appointed? And he has kept promising it will happen. Yet recently, in his now defunct policy budget speech, he had seemingly developed a serious bout of amnesia and instead announced that 100 patrollers will be appointed to Buffalo City, not the northern areas, Buffalo City. He promised the northern areas, with nothing of the promise made to the northern areas. So I'm asking here, Honorable Speaker, the MEC has an opportunity to correct this when he retables his budget policy speech. Is the MEC going to keep his promise that he made to the northern areas, or is he going to confirm to the whole world that his word means nothing? When will the 50 safety brigade patrollers that was promised to the northern areas be appointed? We want a date, please.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kasim. Honorable Premier, you have 15 minutes to respond. You may allocate to the respective MECs. Your 15 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to you, to honorable members, DG and HODs, and everybody else on the gallery. Well, Honorable MEC Mhlaba can come in with specifics, but I fully concur with what Honorable Chief Whip has raised, not because it's noble, but just on crime. Just on crime generally. But what I know, Mhlaba is one of the hotspots that have been identified. There's been deployment in Mhlaba in terms of TRT and NIU that is operating in that space that links Mhlaba, Mhlaba, Butterworth, and Mthatha. It's unfortunate what is happening in our people, not only those who are in the urban, peri-urban, particularly those who are in rural areas, because of the vastness and unfortunately the life that they have never been exposed to. That's an area that has been having that problem for some time. It actually subsided. It's now re-emerging again with this unfortunate incident. I will leave it to Honorable MEC Mhlaba to conclude on that. Surely the police are attending to that specific matter. On the second one from Honorable Werner, that one is a very unfortunate, Honorable Speaker, that only irresponsible South Africans who are clueless about what patriotism means will argue in the manner in which Honorable Werner is arguing. Responsible South African who know where this country comes from, where we are and where we are heading to, won't really be sharing such sentiment. We are building this country. We are transforming this country into a country that is united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic, and prosperous. We declared as people of this country in 1950 whatever, that this country will belong to all who live in it. President Ramaphosa and the delegation he was leading did exceptional well. They deserve recognition by responsible South Africans that South Africa had to confront that situation. We were taught by President Mandela on how to handle issues of South Africa with care. Because South Africa is probably, unlike other many countries in the world. And we're doing exactly that to make sure that our kids have got future in this country. Everybody has got future in this country. So the challenge that probably other people see is out of this issue of being reckless. We are implementing policies here in this country that are affirming the previously disadvantaged people. And we're not going to change policies because of what the president of US feels, but we had to go and engage him and explain the position of this country so that everybody in the world respect the sovereignty of this country. Our foreign policy is very clear of being non-aligned. And what do we mean by that? I think President Ramaphosa was representing that situation. Hence, his post-formal meeting briefing in the mid-evening, probably they were fast asleep because they are just going with the hype and they stop everything. So President Ramaphosa briefed the country, briefed the world on the actual discussions that they had with the leadership of US. We've got to understand and appreciate the globalization. Whether we like it or not, South Africa cannot be in a country that lives in a particular island. We are part of the global village. We've got to work on that. So it's a fact that as we speak, our people are suffering because the presidential emergency intervention, the PEFA, has been withdrawn. You see, and that's a fact. It's a reality that we're facing. 600 companies from US that have invested, they have created more than 100,000 jobs. So any normal thinking, any normal patriotic South African with reasons would understand that the livelihood of these people don't want reckless leadership. Against all odds, would want people who can reason, people who can sit down. It's not a cowardice. It's not an act of cowardice, what President has done. He has showed a courage that many would have not actually do. So we are not a colony, we are not a province of United States of America. We are an independent country with our own policies that we are not going to change. Hence, the expropriation of land with that, and we made that one very clear. I'm quite happy that as I move into the other one, which was raised on gangsterism in northern areas, as much as we share everything with Honorable Kasim, that the problem of ongoing gangsterism needs to be tackled and be actually dealt with, as it is the case in the Amagenza situation in black townships. So the problem of you standing up here and think that the problem of people dying is only in the northern areas, is not happening in Motherwell and New Brighton and elsewhere. It's one of those kind of narrow way of looking at things. I was happy with Mr. Rupert just to explain to the world, to Honorable Steenhuisen, that while people are trying to grandstand and trying to do all other things, they are actually facing this problem where they lead. So in this case, so that has actually been demonstrated. That
Honorable Premier, Honorable Vena, Honorable Kasim, Honorable Vena, heckling is allowed. Heckling is allowed, but not to the extent that the two of you. No, Honorable Kasim, you are out of order now. Honorable Vena, you are out of order. Honorable Vena, and Honorable Kasim, heckling is allowed, but not to the extent that you are dwarfing the response of the Premier.
So
you may continue, Honorable
Thank
Premier.
you. I'm just moving that neatly, nicely, Honorable Speaker. You can see them. They can no longer take it. So I want to apologize for that, unfortunately. It's part of what we said. It's an opportunity also to school some people who are in this house so that they can understand things better. But I think let me leave it to Honorable Ngata to deal with some specifics around that. So I'm telling you, Mr. Rupert has told you, we will never learn from Western Cape here.
Honorable MEC Ngata, you now have 7 minutes remaining. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to you, Honorable Premier, members of the executive, honorable members, the DG, HODs, and the guests. Yeah, it's on. It's a young blow. Maybe let me use my 7 minutes by this introduction, Honorable Speaker. The late Reverend Stofile, may his soul rest in peace, when he sought to explain why the convergence between the right wing and the ultra left, he would use his hands to say that if you put your hands this way, the hands would converge. So I find it interesting, the convergence between the DA and the EFF. So it can be explained every time they converge, So it's understood in that ideological context. Honorable Chair, Speaker, on the issue of Mhlaba incident, the issue of crime is concerning there. And indeed, Honorable Premier, as you were saying, there's been deployments that have been done. But in this specific incident in that village, it is still under investigation. But there are strong indications that it's more of a revenge, where between two groups there was an attack initially. So those who killed another one, they knew that people would converge that night. Hence they came back. But the investigations are underway, and whether it's about Mhlaba or any other incident, like the one of the 2 stolen babies, Honorable Mlokoti, arrests have been effected already. And it's a mother who lost, she went to deliver her own babies, twins. Unfortunately, they passed on. For some reason, she organized with somebody else to go and steal the 2 babies. Police are following. So it's a mother in grief, though not justified, the incident. But that's the kind of a context. So police are acting. Whoever does anything wrong, police are surely going to effect arrest. Those who resist are surely like to meet the might of the police. So, and in Mhlaba, we had an acting station commander. We have now a colonel, a permanent station commander there. He's quite a very good police officer, and with him deployed there, we're beginning to see progress. Let alone the blockage which was there recently, March, despite the negotiations. As we are approaching local government, there will be many of those protests. Others are genuine, but others, they carry in them some political, agendas. So we need to be alive with that as honorable members, all of us, to ensure that there is that reality. And on the issue of the northern areas, it remains our commitment to ensure that we implement the decision, as we have started to implement other decisions relating to the Nelson Mandela Metro. For our approach in the fight against crime is not based on race. It's based on the fact that crime affects all communities, irrespective of race. And therefore, we need to approach it from that angle. And there is no need to politicize the fight against crime. It's important that we should do that. In Nelson Mandela, we have implemented the cooperative agreement, which we signed in last September, which sought to integrate resources from provincial, the metro, and national government to fight against crime. We're beginning to see signs of that. And in implementing this thing about the safety brigades, given our budget as a Department of Community Safety, we're already having a partnership with one of the secures resources that is going to be implemented soon. And the communities of the northern areas will let them know. And there is no need to grandstand on those matters and pretend as if nothing is being done. I think it suffices for me to end there, Honorable Speaker. For other things, others, the way they behave, they're more like Trump. No matter what you say, they have made their mind. No matter what you say, they have made their mind. Simple like Trump, You see, you're supporting simple like Trump. Simple like Trump. So you can't hear me because you have made a mind. The commitment still stands. The commitment still stands. This financial year. This financial year.
Honorable Vena and Honorable Kasim, you are being disruptive. And you know, there's a line with when I always say heckling is allowed, but when a member stands, if your screaming is louder than the member speaking, it becomes disruptive. Thank you, honorable members. That concludes the member statements. We will now move on to the questions to the honorable premier. We have got 10 questions to the honorable premier. I do know, though, that question 4, Honorable Zinti had posed that question. We have received Honorable Zinti's apology, but we have not received anyone assigned from the UDM that will respond to her question, unfortunately. So, Premier, you may omit that in your response. We do note that each of the members, in terms of the rules, have got the opportunity for supplementary questions to the honorable premier, but we have also allocated a 10-minute assigned for the response to these questions. But we will, I will move with the flow so that at least we get to the extent. I have just seen the responses. Some of them are very elaborate, Honorable Premier. The detail in there, but I would guide you to just speak to the substantive issues, and you may refer, obviously, to the responses that is in there. If you are going to spend 20 minutes, like you do in your when on the oral paper, it's not going to assist, because I do not want to cut you off. I don't think it is going to, bear the fruit of what we want to do at this. Members do require the detailed responses, but I think we must be concise. Honorable Premier, if you can come to the podium to deal with that. Yes. And after each question, I will just ask you to sit down so that if members do have follow-up or supplementary questions, they can do so. You may start with question 1 from Honorable Mjajubana to the Honorable Premier.
Kosi for life. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and greetings to honorable members, DG HOD once again, distinguished guests. I will try, Speaker, to summarize, even though I'm not as good as like that. But on the first question from Honorable Mjajubana, I want to indicate that there is some work being done by the Department of Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism, focusing particularly on environmental affairs. We are working with other institutions like SANBI. We are working with all other relevant government departments to respond directly to the question, like your Department of Fisheries, Forestry, Fisheries and Environment. So all of us, we have our hands on the deck, whether you talk about the Provincial Disaster Center as well as the National Disaster Center in attending to this. We have seen it, Honorable Speaker, even if you look at the issue of the quarterly labor force survey indicating KZN and Eastern Cape being the worst off. It talks directly to the issue of performance, particularly being affected by the disasters. Yes, on OR Tambo, there's work that is being done already in terms of implementing phase 2 of climate change support programs. So there is extensive work, Honorable Speaker. As you said, the answers are quite elaborate. I hope Honorable Mjajubana will be able to agree with me that I don't want to waste much more time on that in ensuring that we are able to get the necessary attention on the matter at hand. It is a really threatening situation, but I would want to leave it there, but all the details are there. But there is work that is being done to thoroughly deal with the issue of the climate change in our province. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Judge Ubane, do you have supplementary question?
No, Speaker, I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Premier, your second question is from Honorable Dr. Kutse. You may proceed.
Thank you so much once again, Honorable Speaker. Regarding to that question, I want to respond as follows, trying to give much more detail that the Department of Transport is working hard on the issue of infrastructure, particularly the road infrastructure network, in order to improve the service delivery accessibility to our people. That work is continuing regardless of the financial constraints or challenges. We have applied already to BFI, the Budget Facility for Infrastructure, looking at how best we can get additional resources to make sure that we are able to deal with issues. The backlog is huge, and we are not going to be able to resolve the backlog with the budget we have as quick as we can. I repeat it, 10% of roads in Eastern Cape are surface roads, 90% are gravel roads. So that challenge is a stark reminder of our past, but we are continuing trying to find a situation where we'll be able to deal with that. In that, we are also investigating the possibilities of alternative technology to be looked at in order to have stronger gravel roads in our rural areas in particular. So we are handling and dealing with that issue. COGTA is also on board, Honorable Speaker, with regard to the municipality's performance, especially with regard to the budget, like your make, allocation and all that, to ensure that at least the money that is allocated, it is spent and it's spent prudently and productively. So that RAS has already shown us some very good progress, which we are all appreciating, led by Honorable MEC Williams, to make sure that the work is being done. And there are clear mechanisms in place, like your district appraisal committees, to make sure that everybody is held accountable. Clearly, from a division of revenue, that's the DORA conditional grants, there is no additional funding. Honorable MEC Williams, I'm sorry, Mvogo, probably will be able to say that when he comes back here and present that budget. We can only hold on the MIC, as small as it is, as you would know that our municipalities, many of them, they can't even generate revenue. They depend on what government allocates to them. Unfortunately, South Africa is still stuck with the funding formula final approach. That is, the bigger budget goes to the national. It comes down to the province. It becomes smaller and smaller as you go down. So going to the second part of her questions, Dr. Gnuse, the province is addressing accessibility limitations. As I've indicated, we are talking about the bail bridges, the so-called Welisizwe programs. We implemented this program way before it was actually inaugurated as Welisizwe bridges. We were doing it in the province, and at that time we were so efficient and effective. And that's why we have requested in writing the president to allow us as a province to go back to that model, because with this model now that the funds are allocated to the transport sector from national, they come to the province transport, but transport must still take it back to public works, national public works procures. That gives us serious problems in terms of ensuring that we are able to manage quick turnaround time and deal with such kind of issues. So we are dealing with that particular issue, Honorable Speaker. Yes, so I think I'm trying to really summarize that issue. And we are doing all what we are doing, Honorable Speaker, in the context of integrated planning, where we are well coordinated, and the Office of the Premier is at the center of that. We have established the PICC to ensure that all allocated budgets, we started with the province and we are extending that now to other spheres of our government, particularly the local sphere, to monitor the infrastructure performance so that we don't have money that is returned. Besides transport, there are a lot of infrastructure projects that are happening here in our province, particularly in schools and the health sector. I can list projects in the health sector like your Sipetu, Madwaleni, Zitulele, Tanzibe, connection, the roads that are connecting those hospitals, but also the hospitals themselves that we are currently working on, Honorable Speaker. And on water, Honorable Speaker, we are also working very hard around that particular aspect. And we've seen the visibility of the minister coming down. I think in the recent past, he has been here more than 3 times in ensuring that all municipalities responsible for that are able to turn the tide. We've seen that. We visited Konkla Dam with the minister to look at all the issues that have been raised in this house and what is happening around that. And we got some satisfaction with the progress that has been made to date in that particular part. Yes, we do have challenges with Amatola Water Board performance issues, stability. It's what is currently causing some serious concerns, and it affects Amatole, particularly Sarabadman areas as well as Buffalo City. Part of water challenges we are experiencing in Buffalo City are as a result of efficient and turnaround system, but more on that is actually vandalism, which is the biggest problem that we are grappling with, Honorable Speaker. But we are definitely trying to make sure that we are able to move away from day zero in areas like Makana, and there's work that is being done. We are reinforcing what Makana is doing there. The biggest problem there is also the dilapidation of the infrastructure. That's the biggest problem which is happening in a number of our small towns or towns in general. We have a biggest problem of those aging infrastructure there. I haven't yet seen the corruption. I won't be coming here and sing about that. Everybody who has got a bit of corruption must go to police and report corruption, and don't report it here. Police must arrest corrupt people who are messing up our municipalities. We don't have a space for those people, Honorable. On housing, Department of Housing, Human Settlement is responsible for housing, and Department of Energy and Electricity is responsible for electricity supply in our municipalities. However, the intermittent electricity disruption beyond load shedding are mainly caused, one, by grid capacity due to new infills, new houses and developments; 2, old and unmaintained electricity infrastructure; 3, infrastructure vandalism, as I've spoken about; 4, technical capacity within the electricity units; 5, lack of funds or budget to maintain infrastructure structure. Department through MISA supported some municipalities like Kouga, KSD, Walter Sisulu, Mkijima, with the development of electricity maintenance plan, but also further investment that ESCOM has done on the so-called mini grids and all that. But to try to beef up, I was calling the regional manager of Eastern Cape, which includes Western Cape, about the problem of electricity in rural areas. Small drizzling collapses the electricity, and they assured me that they are attending to that. So as a rural fellow, I do have that first-hand experience because I spend my time more in that part. I think that's how I can summarize all that. Honorable Gnuse has got the details in front of her that are really specific to the core. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Dr. Gnuse, do you have supplementary question?
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, what I want to ask the Premier in terms of a supplementary question, I think we can all agree that investment in infrastructure should be one of our top priorities. And the reason I say that is because there's an undeniable and tangible link between the state of our infrastructure and the state of our economy, which then in turn means that the needle on unemployment and our economy in the Eastern Cape is moving in the wrong direction. And until we can really make a commitment that we are going to do something about infrastructure investment and turning around the state of our infrastructure in the Eastern Cape, that needle will continue to move in the wrong direction. Is the Premier willing to consider something like an infrastructure revitalization program that might be situated in his office to really focus on that? Honourable Premier, I said in the beginning of this term that I'm going to come to this House and offer solutions, and that is exactly what I am trying to do. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Over to you. Thank you, Honourable Dr. Kutsum. Honourable Premier.
Yes, of course, I can't agree more with her, but surely that needly must not move towards the wrong direction. It must move towards the direction of Kasim and Werner. So, and then if it does that, it will be so effective. So you can see now they are just right because the needly has arrived at them. So definitely I agree, but the unfortunate part is still talks to the issue, the argument that I normally put up, Honourable Speaker, through you, is that sometimes in the Eastern Cape, we just jump into conclusion without really digging deep. You also using the empirical evidence. We talk more service delivery in an underdeveloped province. You need development in order to have a very efficient and effective service delivery. So I do agree with you, Honourable Dr. Gnutse, that we need to do more. But you'll have municipalities here that have got 15 million, 20 million, 30 million. That is said to be a MIG allocation in a year. You must do bridges. Hence, all our municipalities have got low-lying bridges. They cannot afford normal bridges out of the money they have. Unfortunately, they cannot generate any income. Around those municipalities, towns, there are RDP houses. All of those are indigent people of our country. So definitely government, with the dwindling balance sheet, must still find a way of how do we address the funding formula that is currently in our country. But we have made some interventions. That's exactly where the small town revitalization becomes so relevant. Where we have come in with that, we are able to unlock some of those. You are seeing a lot of our towns and municipalities being facelifted because of intervention we have made. Hence, we have included the small town revitalization program in the BFI applications. We would want to see all of our towns, all our municipalities being attendant to improve road infrastructure within our towns, the drainage system, the sewer and all that, so that we are able to get that. But we always talk town. There are those people who are in rural areas that in whatever that we do, would also, of course, we're not paying any rates that we must all be able to deal with. The reality is that the budget that is there, it must make us appreciate the challenge that we have, that we cannot do everything at once. We will forever be trying to address this, move that needly. I agree, the needly must move towards a right direction. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honourable Premier. The third question is from Honourable Pongo to the Premier.
Mbuzile bhalela. Ubhalela phi? Nini madoda. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. We are rejuvenating or reactivating our industrial park, as the question asks. I can assure this House that there's work to revitalize the industrial parks like your Dimbaza, your Komani, Vulindlela, Butterworth, and Fort Jackson. And as we speak, they collectively account for about 4.4 thousand jobs that people will wake up and go to those industrial parks. We are working with them slowly but surely with all the challenges of dilapidation, as you would know. So we are actually improving the infrastructure, the bulk and the fencing, the part of that, so that investors can feel safe and free inside there. On the second question, the program of the small town revitalization, as I've indicated, has been implemented, Honorable Speaker, for sustainable business enterprise, township, and rural economies by the department. The small town and township and rural entrepreneurship support program is a program implemented by the ECDC. So there is work that is happening in that space. Says Pelile, okay. Yes, I think I can go to that extent to summarize, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Pono, do you have any supplementary questions?
No, Honorable Speaker, I'm covered.
Thank you. We move to the fifth question as we are skipping Honorable Zinti. Let me also get my, yes, that is the question. Let me just skip you. I've got many documents in front of me. That's from Honorable Cowley to the Honorable Premier.
All right. I don't feel comfortable to skip the question of Honorable Zindi. It's very unfortunate that she's not here. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. To Honorable Cowley. The Department of Health, Honorable Speaker, is responding comprehensively to the challenge of orthopedic backlogs through a two-pronged strategy which incorporates the following: high-volume camps. This initiative is implemented with the donor partners, medium-term plan that includes sites that will focus on elective orthopedics. 3 regional hospitals have been identified. Cecilia Makiwana should start in June 2025. Frey Hospital will focus on emergency orthopedics and Cecilia Makiwana on planned orthopedics. So the answer to question 2, the department is responsible to pleadings by unemployed doctors, initiated phase 1 recruitment with a target of 66 posts for medical officers in various districts and institutions across. That's the summary in the table there. Is 53. I think they are concluding the other 3 to make it 63. Not 66, they are concluding the other 3 because in the appointment, there are others that they were recruited, they declined the appointment because they've already got other offers elsewhere. So that matter is being attended to, Honorable Speaker, and I think the table indicates that 53 versus the 10, which was done earlier on. The executive management of the OTP has 5 work streams: HR, clinical, facility, financial sustainability, legal, to support the Department of Health. So we have got a hands-on support that we're putting into that department to ensure that the Department of Health is out of the woods. It's not easy, but we're doing our level best. Recently, we had also had a visit of the minister where we spent almost a whole day trying to be so pedantic around issues and chronic systemic challenges that have been actually into that department. Yeah, summarizing sub-question 4, the Office of the Premier, Provincial Treasury, and Department of Health, both national and provincial, initiated a process of collaborative effort to determine the causes of failures. I think I've just summarized that, Honorable Speaker. I hope that Honorable Cowley will understand that, that we do some work. We've been doing work on medical legal for some time, and that work continues to make sure that we are able to stop that ongoing challenge in that space. Sub-question 5, in the event that the Premier or any member of executive require assistance. I think the question was about whether do we trust. I do trust, and I do go to public hospital more often. If you go to Frere, you will see me there in the book where patients are written. If you go to All Saints Hospital, you will see me there. Even when I had a broken arm in December, I went to All Saints. This is where I was given a POP at. So I personally do have a trust, and this reminds me a question that I once asked in another MEC in the previous terms, that there's no way that if you are sick, you must go to another province, but you are an MEC for health. So you must actually demonstrate that confidence, but you cannot risk your life because South Africans, those who can go anywhere, they can go. I don't want to say I'm taking chances and a risk, but I can tell you that I always go there in those hospitals for some services and also to make sure that I contribute to the revenue generation, because I might be privileged and lucky to have a medical aid. And when you get there, you must pay. If you go there for MRI, you must pay for MRI. So that helps government to improve that. So Honorable Kaule, that issue, we do trust. There are actually hospitals that are so exceptional, that are doing exceptional well in attending to this. We are working hard to inculcate this culture that you see now in education, where it is no longer about the Premier or MEC, it is about principals themselves. So they are really running schools. Some running schools in difficult environment and difficult conditions, but those schools are giving you 80% and 90% metric outcomes. So that tells that the kind of change management, the attitude from the CEOs of hospitals down to the porter is going to be important. That's how our hospitals can be changed. So all of us, we've got to work together on that aspect to ensure that we change the situation. No one else. Section 100 was done in Department of Health. I'm not sure how many times, but it has been done. A lot of interventions, they have been done in that department, but it needs our collective effort as the government. That includes the legislature intensifying the oversight so that issues are attended to and are addressed in the department. Thanks, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. I just want to make sure, Honourable Premier, if you have covered question subsection 3, perhaps I missed that, just to make sure from your notes on the question from Honourable Kaule that dealt with the issue of the arrears and the billing, the cash flow actually of the Department of Health.
Yes, the Department of Health has provided a significant cash flow projections for the months of April to June 2025. Payment towards the end of the financial year ended 31st March 2025. The department is negotiating payments plans with the main creditors. The Provincial Treasury is also processing the unauthorized expenditure related to medical legal settlement together with the Department of Health for consideration by SCOPA. In addition, the World Bank, together with the Provincial Treasury, is conducting an audit into budgeting expenditure performance with a view to identify the opportunities for collaborative efficiencies with the budget. The integrated medical legal strategy is containing the escalation of accruals, whilst the National Department of Health and Department of Justice are processing the law reform proposal as sustainable solution. Office of the Premier is supporting the Department of Health technically on the service delivery model and organogram review process so that we can optimize the service delivery. I'm not sure, Honourable Speaker, whether you are talking about that question.
Yes, yes, it was just that subsection, Honourable Premier. Thank you.
Yeah, to emphasize the point that we can't really coexist, as we have said, that this issue of unauthorized, fruitless expenditure and irregular must be an anathema on how we work in our system. The Premier will be writing to every HOD, including MEC, to say there is no way that we will be entertaining from this financial year. We will be entertaining these unnecessary accruals. We said SMME must be paid within 30 days. So there can't be new accruals. Let's deal with the history and what we have been grappling with. From this financial year moving forward, we are going to be writing to every MEC and say, we can't have new accruals come next year. We need to manage our budget properly and make sure that we spend our budget according to plans so that we don't have this problem that we're having. Because if we don't pay service providers, we are part of sharing the jobs. Because if SMMEs cannot be paid on time, you've got the biggest problem down the line that people might be able to share the jobs. So that's an issue. If other provinces or a province can have no accruals at the end of the financial year, as I would have heard from MEC Mbogo in their recent budget. So why we can't do it in the province? Surely we will do it. DG, I hope that you are listening to that, so that HODs understand, as they're seated there, that come next year, we should be talking about historical problems on accruals, not new accruals, simply because we couldn't pay. We need to align ourselves properly.
Yes, you're way over the 10 minutes for this question. The sixth question is from Honorable Dr. Oh, my apologies. Honorable Kauri, do you have supplementary? My apologies, because
Honourable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Yes, thank you very much, Premier. It is just very unfortunate that I don't have the printed response in front of me, as I have not received it from the House. However, I did make a few notes as you were speaking. And on point number 3, recently in the National Assembly, the Minister of Health, Honourable Aaron Motsoaledi, revealed that of the 1,600 odd medico-legal claims of last year nationally, 1,132 of them came from the Eastern Cape. Now, that is going to impact quite severely on, firstly, the ability of the department to be able to pay their creditors within 30 days. And secondly, it's also going to impact quite severely on, contingent liability, because they're not going to have, they're going to have to take whatever successful claims they are, they're going to have to take it out of our operational budget. How is that going to impact then on the accruals and on our payment of creditors within 30 days?
These are claims, through you, Speaker, Honourable Speaker. Surely these are claims that are still being processed. The point that we are making, our capacity that we have brought in the Department of Health, is that no claim is left unchallenged. We are challenging every claim as unlike in the past, where you had all these claims coming through the court without us lifting a finger. So we have the responses, we have improved from that front to ensure that, yes, we can't stop claims. People will forever be claiming. But from our side, we needed to have our house in order and play our cards. Clearly, if that is uncontrollable, it will directly impact on accruals, because that would mean court instructs or makes a court judgment, which is going to be directly impacting on our annual plans in terms of budgeting and all that, and cash flows. Because if the court says pay, you pay, or you challenge court in another court of law. I'm just saying there could be such number, as Minister would have said, but that doesn't necessarily literally mean that these are claims that must be paid. Those are claims that are there that are being contested in the different courts of law.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. The sixth question is from Honourable Dr. Bese to the Honourable Premier.
I like Rupert. Yeah, I just sort you. He will sort you. No, Rupert is an Eastern Cape resident. He's owning.
Honourable Premier, can you please respond to the from Honourable Dr. Bese?
Yeah, Speaker, yeah. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Dr. Besse, thank you so much. The project is implemented in partnership with the World Bank, the Pro Blue Grant, and is funded by the Global Environment Facility. And it will be dispersed through that the World Bank arrangement for the implementation of this project. The money will not be dispersed into the province. The Pro Blue Grant will deliver technical assistance to support the implementation of the province's new integrated aquaculture and fisheries strategy to utilize marine resources for food security. The technical assistance is comprised of seaweed utilization in the Eastern Cape province. The grant will finance a scoping study of seaweed utilization and also sustainable harvesting and farming potential along the entire coast of the Eastern Cape province. Scoping study will look at the biological and geographic ecological seaweed potential of the Eastern Cape coastline and put it in perspective with possible uses and markets. It will characterize current seaweed utilization in the province, including experimental or pilot projects, et cetera, et cetera. But the coastal community assessment probably will finance an economic, social, and environmental baseline of coastal communities in the Eastern Cape. This assessment should highlight the technical, policy, economic, social, and environmental challenges and the opportunities our people face along the coast. The World Bank group, technical experts, have been engaged in the discussion with the Eastern Cape Department of Agriculture and other stakeholders, other administrations, academia, NGOs, to develop terms of reference and identifying experts. Both rapid assessments should be completed in September to be followed by in-depth studies. The activity is planned to end in June 2026. The problem supports consulting services. That's it, Honorable Besse. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Dr. Besse, do you have any supplementary questions?
No, I'm covered, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We go to the seventh question from Honorable Mhlaba, but Honorable Gaya is pending for Honorable Mhlaba.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. We're getting there, slowly but surely. The total allocation to special schools is 105 million, with an additional allocation of 49,802,635 for hostels. In terms of the norms and standards policy, 65% of the overall allocation, which is 64 million, be utilized for the procurement of learner-teacher support material, and the additional 35%, which is 34 million, should be going towards the operational cost of special schools. The policy stipulates that the funding is not to be utilized for any additional cost of employment or capital expenditure. Based on a policy, schools can only use the allocated funding for minor maintenance. Any major improvements in the schools or hostels need to be actioned by the Directorate of Infrastructure in the head office. Annually, the Directorate Infrastructure engage with the Directorate Inclusive Education to ascertain whether the need for the critical intervention is needed. Special schools in rural areas remain a priority. Norms and standard funding, in addition, includes an amount of 6 million or 6,034,000. Yeah, it's a good way to subsidize the transport needs of deserving learners. Additional 8 million under the capital allocation will be spent for this financial year for the procurement of 10 buses. Also, it is important to highlight that the Eastern Cape Department of Education, under the leadership of the head of department and in collaboration with the Directorate of Inclusive Education, has developed a comprehensive inclusive education model that is designed to decentralize support and bring specialized intervention closer to where learners live. The implementation of this model is currently underway and associated with the multi-phase project plan that has been formally submitted through the Office of the HOD and the MEC as well to make sure that that is done, and it is intended to be tabled before the Premier himself. Through this strategic initiative, the department is not only ensuring that financial resources are allocated efficiently, but also reaffirming its commitment to building an inclusive education system that is responsive, learner-centered, and locally accessible. The answer to sub-question 2, the school is not a school registered by the Department of Education and as a special school. The Directorate overseeing the independent school will launch an investigation in the operation of the school. 3, the department is currently busy with an extensive security assessment of all special schools to ensure that these schools and special schools hostels comply with highest standards of security. The formal report will be available by June, Honorable Speaker. And I think on the security assessment, that includes the vetting of all educators, support staff, and other individuals that have permanent access to learners. Again, the sexual offense register. The department is supported in this by the South African Police Services and the Department of Justice. 22 security guards were deployed to all special schools and with hostels. All special schools were trained on the guidelines for residential care of learners in schools. Principals were also trained on the protocol for managing and reporting of sexual abuse and harassment in school. Furthermore, Honorable Speaker, the department is rolling out the guidelines for reporting child abuse as aligned to the latest Child Justice Act stipulation. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Gaia. Do you have any supplementary questions? Thank you. Then we will move over to the 8th question from Honorable Tibekane to the Honorable Premier.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Clearly, people who represent others cannot have a follow-up question unless those were original their question. So, I must be protected. To Honorable Tibekane, the province supports the stance that has been taken by the national government with regards to the threat from the tariffs. The Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, how the country will need to adapt with the focus on engaging with the negotiation with the US and expand the country's trade relations. I think this might have also been overtaken by the initiative that the President has made in terms of fast-tracking the kind of solution to the pain and frustration that we are all having here. But that is not only just about the US, but it also look at the support on advancement of intra-Africa trade focus, on value addition and localization, leveraging on other current relations at the provincial and national level. Sub-question 2, the department has done a scenario analysis which indicates that a full implementation possibility of job losses are high to companies that are exporting to the US. Of course, when those tariffs are being hiked, that's a challenge. At a company level, those companies from the province who are exporting to the US will have their profit margin squeezed, their product less competitive in the US market, and this might lead to a layoff of staff. Another indirect impact will be the slowdown in already depressed national economy, which will also have other compounding effects on the provincial economy. Lastly, on 3, the province will leverage the preferential market access the country has with the Southern Africa Custom Union, SADC, and SADC EU Economic Partnership Agreement, SACU, Mozambique, UK, and European trade. So I think that's the summary, Honorable Speaker. There's still something that I've came across when I went down that side, where I've learned that many of our farmers there, or citrus farmers, are exporting what they are producing in Eastern Cape through Western Cape. That's why you have got people here who think that everything is done Western Cape while it is done in the Eastern Cape. So we're looking at that issue to make sure that we address that issue so that what is actually done here can be processed here, can be exported here. We do have the reports here that are underutilized. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Premier. Honorable Tebekane, do you have any follow-up questions?
No, thank you, Speaker. I'm content with the response.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Is Honorable Lizo here?
Yes, he is, Honorable Premier.
The response, Honorable Speaker, is that the first law challenged the department ring-fence positions for the transformation gaps, but the conditions from such gaps do not apply, owing to a few schools for the disabled in the province, as against the normal schools, and applicants are often queuing for admissions for them to be accommodated to acquire formal education. On B, buildings that were built before 1994, heritage buildings or offices, do not always accommodate for persons with disability, and the reasonable accommodation policy it becomes a change to implement, especially where these buildings are leased. Resource constraints, departments do not efficiently budget to cater for recruiting for all disability types, as the filling of the post may warrant that, and you can see sometimes you can easily employ someone with a disability only to realize that when that person is there, is unable to access the building. The departments, under constructive criticism, the departments may not be involving the PWDs and the women in the driving their transformation policy strategic objectives, and thus it receives a resistance from the beneficiaries. Stigma and discrimination may be also experienced by employees who ought to disclose. I think that has been an issue that some people would not want to do so, those who might be very minor on the disability. Sub-question 2, all non-compliant departments are accounting to the public sector transformation working group about how they recruit on the national set targets of the transformation policies with the people with disability. And 50% females in SMS, and they submit their to their HODs, or their HOD signed improvement plans as commitment to meet the set transformation gaps. The Office of the Premier offers a wide range of courses that are relating to training of women on MMS and below, to be ready for opportunities at SMS level. The provincial circulars have been developed for departments to encourage disclosure of disability by employees with the provincial department through the EEA1 form, and that is monitored by the Department of Employment and Labor, DPSA, and Office of the Premier. Departments are encouraged to submit their gender equity strategic plans and job access strategic framework plans. Departments are also encouraged to develop their own employment equity policy, report on economic opportunities afforded to transformation groups, and meet the set threshold. Analysis of personal statistics on employment equity gaps is monitored and on quarterly basis by the provincial administration, and departments that do not meet the targets do receive letters from the Director General advising them to recruit in line with such targets. Dialogues and workshops are organized for all provincial departments to discuss common challenges and be equipped on how to design standard operating procedures. Under question 3, the revision of Employment Equity Act is also at its regulation, which was passed in April 2025 by the Minister of Employment and Labor, introduces the sector targets to both public and private entities, and the collaboration between the provincial government with the Department of Employment and Labor is yielding good results in terms of monitoring employment equity plans that are submitted and monitored on the annual basis. The most recent workshop on these workshops has been coordinated on the 20th of May this month here in East London. Capacity building programs are arranged with the special programs units, employment equity practitioners, and all the sector groups that are dealing with the disabled people. The partnering with the institution of higher learning for purposes of nurturing the people with disability candidates under the public-private partnership agenda of the province. The integration of employment equity committees with the employee health and wellness committee. So we are working all this to be relevant, Honorable Speaker, to the International Organization for Standardization. So we are in compliance in terms of what is set globally in terms of our policies and our regulations. Thank you very much, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. Honorable Lizo, do you have any supplementary questions?
Thanks, Honorable Speaker. I'm happy with the response.
Thank you. We are going to the last question, the 10th question from Honorable Banju to the Honorable Premier.
Let me drink water. I've broken a record today. Thank you very much, Honorable Banju. Military veterans' support on agriculture is demand or need-based, as is informed by the needs analysis process. In 2023-2024, at least 12 military veterans received support on farming and agriculture. In 2024-2025 financial year, at least 14 military veterans from OR Tambo, BCM, Christian, Alfred Nzo, and Amatole made submissions for support in crop and animal production. In line with the applicable processes, the requests were referred to Department of Agriculture for consideration, as at the time of reporting details of the support provided emanating from those submissions were not available and will be provided at the end of May. Sub-question 2, through the Department of Agriculture, provision has been made to support military vets through various programs. Below is the list program of the Department of Agriculture annual plan through which military veterans will be supported. So, military veterans support beneficiation is planned at 10% budget allocation from the programs focus areas from which military veterans are planned to benefit to be supported are listed below under each program for the military veterans. That's the list. Sustainable resource use and management. Then we are specifying those from A to H. You can at least read. I was worried that some members said they don't have this hard copy. But also on under agriculture and economics services, we are also enlisting military vets there, the rural development as well. We are also finding a way of trying to support the military vets there. I think, Honorable Speaker, I'm done. I've concluded. The last question.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. No, you must first wait to hear if there are no supplementary questions, Honorable Premier. Honorable Vanju, no, Honorable Vanju, are you satisfied? Do you have supplementary questions?
We'll take it as work in progress.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. You may return to your seat, Honorable Premier. Let us thank you for availing yourself to answer all these questions and the detail that have been provided. I think we will just work in future to ensure that, as with the oral questions, that members do receive the responses, because the responses are quite detailed in this respect, but we do have an allocation of only 10 minutes per question in that respect. Honorable members, thank you so much. It concludes the matters and the business for the day. Please do take note that tomorrow we are having our Africa webinar under the CPA, our own subnational branch. It's at 10 o'clock, a link onto Zoom. Please do engage when we open it up to discussions, not just to see members there and putting thumbs up and clapping. Please, members, do engage. It's a very interesting topic that we will be debating, and we are also having representatives from other parliaments in Africa that will be also sharing their experiences to us in terms of the digital technology, the digital tech divide, as well as the AI in the legislatures. Honorable members, we will adjourn until the 29th of May, 2025 at 2:15 virtually for the debate of motions. The House is adjourned. Thank you.